Good evening, dear students, parents, teachers, and all those who have joined us. I heartily welcome all of you to the Sage Talk. Before we begin, I would like to introduce you all to the Sage group. So here is an AV. I cordially welcome the speakers of today's Sage Talk, Mrs. Poonam Joshy, who is a storyteller, story coach, persona enhancement trainer, and motivational speaker. The other speaker of the talk is Mrs. Jyoti Pande. She is also a storyteller, psychotherapist, counselor, parenting coach, happiness and mindfulness coach, and teachers trainer. I welcome both of you, ma'am. Over to ma'ams.
Hello, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Right. Great. So, a very good evening to one and all, and thank you to the SAGE group for inviting us over to give a talk on the power of stories. I begin this evening with a poem, in fact, a part of my poem on stories. कहानियां वक्त की मोहताज नहीं होती, इनकी खुद की कोई आवाज नहीं होती। सदियों का सफर तय कर लेती हैं पलों में, बेआवाज, बेखौफ, बेफिक्र, बेबाक, बिन हदों में इनकी परवाज। जहां जरूरत हो पहुंच ही जाती हैं, जहां जरूरत हो इनकी पहुंच ही जाती हैं। रुकती नहीं ज्यादा समय किसी के पास, रुकती नहीं ज्यादा समय किसी के पास। ठहर जाती है मन में, ठहर जाती है मन में, बनकर एक एहसास। बिखरी है कायनात में हर सू, बिखरी है कायनात में हर सू। ढूंढ लो तो मोती है ये, ढूंढ लो तो मोती है ये, लुटा दो तो खजाना है ये। कहानियां जो वक्त की मोहताज नहीं होती हैं, कहानियां वक्त की मोहताज नहीं होती हैं। यस, ज्योति। Jyoti, are you on the Zoom chat?
Ma'am, she's there. I'm just.
Yeah, unmute her, please.
Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah.
So, hi everybody. It is great to be here, and great because Self and Poonam, we both love to do things together. And this beautiful journey of our venture Kathavraksh started a long time back. The seed of our friendship grew into the seed of our friendship grew into the tree by the name Kathavraksh. It was nurtured, or we both were dreamers and wanted to spread the magic of stories in the world. It required a lot of effort. We traveled, we learned from the national and international storytellers, and then created a small tree of Kathavraksh, which is still in the process of growing. And through the medium of Kathavraksh, we do a lot of work. We teach children, we train teachers. We also do a lot of community work in the form of storytelling for the underprivileged, whether it could be, it would be Museum School of Children, Parvarish, the Museum School, or Arushi, the Center for Special Children. We recently have organized a program for women healing with stories. So stories are magical. They can do a lot of work. And before I hand over to Poonam, I would like to tell you why stories are important. Are you all ready for a story? Can you just show me the thumbs up? Is everybody ready for a story? Okay, I can see Manisha. I can see Swati. Okay, so this is the story of a story. This is the story when the earth had just begun, and so were the rivers and valleys and mountains and the wind. Truth traveled all around the world, from one country to another country, one town to another town to village, all over the world. And believe me, he knocked at the door of poor man's hut to the kingdom, the golden doors of the palaces. But no one opened the door for him. Rather, they shut the door on his face. Now, Truth was very disappointed. He was tired. His clothes were worn out. His eyes were pale. He had become lanky. Nobody had welcomed him for days. And finally, he reached a town. And he walked towards the center of the town. And what he sees? He saw a beautiful, beautiful statue. with all the colors around it, red and blue and pink and yellow and green and silver and golden and purple. And the people were flocking around the statue. They wanted to touch the statue. They wanted to smell the statue. They did not want to leave the statue. And finally, when the evening closed down and the night began, they all went to their homes. And then Truth gradually approached the statue and asked, "Who are you? Why do people want to be so close to you? Look at me. Nobody opens the door for me." The statue smiled and said, "I am a story. And you are the truth, the naked truth. Whoever wants to see a naked truth." She gently held the hand of Truth and gave Truth all her colors, green and yellow and pink and silver and purple, all the colors, and held the hand and said, "Come, we will travel together." And from that day, the truth and the stories travel together. That is why they say stories must be told, for there is truth in each and every story. So now the ball is in Poonam's court to go ahead with what she has to say about it.
Thank you, Jyoti. What a beautiful, mesmerizing story. And I'm sure half of the people, or in fact, everybody, will agree with what you just said, because stories are always rooted in truth. They may be fiction, they may be non-fiction, but at the heart, it's always truth and only truth. So to begin with, what are stories and what exactly are we telling them for? A story is a connection. It's a connected series of events told through words, imagery, body language, performance, music, or any other form of communication. So when we tell a story, in fact, every day we talk to each other, we narrate incidents, but they are not stories. Because when you tell a story, it has to have a reason behind it. It has to have some message. You're leaving a thought behind with people. So it is not a day-to-day conversation. You put more to it. You add words, imagery, body language, your own truth, performance, music, and so many other things. Stories have been part of human culture and society for years. In fact, I should say ever since mankind existed, stories existed too. They bring order into the otherwise very confused world. Story tradition is as old as mankind. In fact, let's begin with the cave paintings. We all have Bhimbetka, which is very near Bhopal, and they are one of those paintings. They're said to be prehistoric. So when man did not have company, or did not have friends, or did not have a language probably, they started writing on the walls, the caves. And those drawings, in the form of drawings actually, they were not writing, they were drawing. And those picture drawings were the stories that have been passed on through these paintings to the next generations. And that's how we can find out what kind of people lived in those ages. What were their thoughts? How did they live? What did they think? How the societies were formed? So that is the first form of stories. The second was the oral tradition. Even before schools were there, people lived in villages. They would, every evening after finishing their household chores, their hunting, or maybe their agriculture, household works, all of them would get together in the evening, light a fire, and around it they will sit and talk for ages. I mean, it was like for hours. They would talk about stories, they would talk about the wiser ones, the older ones. They had so much to tell. They had so much to tell about traditions, values, customs, and history. So that's how the second part of oral tradition started. And then very recently, when we had a language, we had written skills, that's when the written form of storytelling started. So of late, it is that we have started reading, but somehow in the modern era, when the television and nowadays the handheld mobiles, there is so much happening on the screen that the human connect, the man-to-man connect has been, less. So we have to revive the oral tradition of stories. So that is how oral tradition is now once again being brought into curriculums, into corporate training, everywhere. Stories play a very important role. There are different types of stories. They could be fiction or non-fiction. In fiction, we have fairy tales, fantasies, folklores, and in non-fiction, we can have, personal stories. We all have a story. If you realize, we have some stories that can inspire others. So we all have stories. We have travel stories. We have memoirs. We have war stories. But the only thing that is common in all, be it fiction or non-fiction, is that stories are always rooted in truth. Yes, Jyoti?
Okay. Definitely they are rooted in truth. And now I'll be speaking something. What makes stories so very powerful? You all must have experienced either reading a book or going to the movie and crying with the hero or heroine, or laughing with them, or heart skipping a beat when you see an adventure being performed. Why does this happen? You are not there. It is the other person who is doing this thing. But it is all a matter of connect. There is something called mirror neurons. So when we see the other person doing something, similar kind of images happen to us. And it is as if we are doing those things. And that makes storytelling so very powerful. In fact, what is story? A story is a wisdom disguised in entertainment. If you go to any story and reflect on it, there is some kind of learning from it. Stories are motivating. I still remember Gandhiji in one of his talks had mentioned how the story of Raja Harishchandra played an important role in shaping his value towards truth. Stories have a deep and profound impact. And why this happens? Because in general, if you are telling something to somebody, the defenses are always on. But when the moment you say, once upon a time, everybody gives their attention. The defenses are down. The curiosity is on. What is going to happen next? And that makes the stories so powerful. They build a beautiful connect between the listener and the teller. This, I'm talking about the oral storytelling. I mean, it happens in reading also, but not as much as the oral storytelling. So first is stories are great motivators. Stories build a beautiful connect. And especially if there are teachers here, in the classrooms, if you want to get something into the heads of your students, connect is the most important thing. If there is no connect, there is no learning. For any learning to happen, the prefrontal cortex has to be activated, and that happens with connect. So what more powerful than the stories to bring that connect? Normally, we are in so much of hurry in the classroom. I have been a teacher myself, and the idea is to go to the classroom, open the book, and start da 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 da, and nothing goes inside here. But if you take 3 minutes to build a connect with a story of any kind, You will be amazed at the learning. And also, storytelling is very important because it involves all the faculties of the brain, which I will be talking about later when I talk about the brain and the storytelling, how the physiology is affected by storytelling. Storytelling is very important for building creativity of the child. It takes you to a visual space without being actually there. When you are telling the story of Sindbad, you are traveling with Sindbad. When you are telling the story of Little Red Riding Hood, you are with the Little Red Riding Hood. You walk with Little Red Riding Hood. You are a part of her journey. When we talk about a story of Fox and the Grapes, you can actually visualize the grapes. You can see the fox jumping towards the grapes. We all have been told the story of hare and tortoise, and eventually what goes inside is slow and steady wins the race. Everything is very nice, but as a storyteller, I am totally against giving the moral of the story. I have seen many a times teacher at the end of a story say, so the moral of the story is, I'm sorry, please leave the moral to themselves. They will come up with 1,001 morals which you have never thought about. So why restrict their thinking? Also, I have spoken about connect. I have spoken about creative thinking. Now, next comes stories are very important as a part of communication. Communication is a two-way process, a speaker and a listener. And in the classrooms, what the teachers mostly struggle with that the students don't listen. So the storytelling is a very powerful medium to bring their attention towards you. The moment you start with a story, their attention is directed towards what you are going to say. And you can be a very smart teacher, a 1 minute story, and then you can get on with the syllabus. So you already have their attention in your hand. So that makes stories very powerful. So I've spoken about connect, I've spoken about communication, creativity. They are a great way. You can start with something and leave the end open for the children to make their own stories. And you will be amazed with the kind of stories they come up. They are great motivators, as I have told you about the stories. And all this happens in a very subtle way. Normally the doors of the children or adolescent are shut, like that storyteller. And stories help you open that door and move inside and plant the seed of whatever you are trying to do. So that makes storytelling very important. It is the biggest tool in a teacher's hand. If you have a bag full of stories and you enter the class, you know you can be a winner. So especially for teachers, I always recommend have your bag of stories with you. So I've spoken enough. Now, next is Poonam, who would be sharing her insights on storytelling.
Yes, exactly. Every word said by Jyoti resonates with everybody, I'm sure, all the teachers there. Because all the teachers, when they go to the class, they realize if the connect is not there, the children don't understand anything. In fact, they're not interested. There are only 10% in the class who are such serious readers, students who want to sit and listen to everything probably. It's their upbringing at the house. But there are around 20-30% in the class who are naughty, who are not ready for anything. So to calm them down, you need to start with something different. And the minute you say once upon a time, these magical words can actually take them, they put them into trance. A teacher can hypnotize them but by just these three words, once upon a time. And then they are yours. You've already made the connect. So whatever now that you're going, see, first you have to make the base ready. The brain has to be ready. The mind has to be open. The eyes, the heart has to open to take the information. Whatever you're teaching, any subject, be it maths. For maths, you can take different types of stories. That Jyoti will deal with it later when we talk about curriculum. but there is so much. So the next part that I want to tell right now is the thing that there are three types of learners in any classroom, in any scenario, in any board meeting, anywhere, wherever you are there to give a talk. There are always three types of learners. 40% of the learners in any room, in any classroom, are visual learners. When I say visual, these are those people who learn best by seeing, by videos, by diagrams, illustrations, imagery. So 40% of these people in any class are visual learners. The second are the auditory learners. Now, it deals with listening. So the minute these 40% are taken care of, so 80% in the class are listening or visually learning. The other 20% are the kinesthetic learners. They learn best by doing, or you can say by experiencing or feeling. So and a story has all three aspects. It deals with the visuals, it deals with the auditory, and it deals with the kinesthetics. So when all three are present, the learning has to be very strong. So visual learners appreciate the mental pictures in storytelling. Whenever you tell a story, you actually give a mental picture. Come on, let's go on a little voyage. Let's all go on a picture story. Can we do that? I want all of you uh, to just maybe listen to the story, close your eyes. Once upon a time, many years ago, there lived a boy with his parents in a village. The village was beautiful. It had lakes and ponds and all the animals, the cows, the buffaloes. And his mother had passed away long back. So this mother he had was a stepmother. She would often ill-treat him. She would be angry. She would hit him hard. She would not give him food. One day, he was disgusted with life. He thought of leaving his house and he went towards the forest. He ran and he ran and he ran and he was panting. His breath was heavy. By the time he reached the jungle, it was almost evening. He could hear lots of sounds. There were trees all around him, and suddenly he heard the sound of a tiger. And his heart came to his mouth. He didn't know what to do. He climbed up the tree. He thought he would be safe. He saw the monkeys jumping. There were lots of birds. They were fluttering their wings, for they were scared. They too had heard the sound. The boy, who was so scared, he slept on the branch the whole night. Next morning, slowly, he came down and he walked back to his village. And there, he went inside his house and he realized home is the place where he is safe. You may now open your eyes. Now, if I ask, though this is not an experiential class or where we can, ask you all the thoughts, but I can assure you of this, that all of you had a different image of the boy. If I ask you what the clothes the boy was wearing, someone will tell me. You can write in your chat box if you feel like. I can see. I can read the chat box. And if I ask you about the village, the picture of the village will be your village. It will not be my village. I gave you a picture, but it was my picture. The village that you made in your mind is something different. The pond was different. I'm sure you saw some fishes. You saw some ducks. I had not mentioned about them. I only mentioned about two animals, the cow and the buffalo. I'm sure you saw the sheep. And you also saw some peacocks in the forest. And when I told you he went to the forest and when I took this out, the sound of the tiger, I'm sure you also felt the scare. You could feel your heart beating for the little boy. The emotions were there. So the visual picture and the emotions aroused for each one of you would have been different, not necessarily the same. So that's what is at the heart of a story. It is different for everybody. In fact, when Jyoti ma'am just said that don't tell a moral. When you tell a moral, you restrict, you put them into boundaries. Once again, you have given them something. Anything that is given on a platter, it shuts the mind. It does not make you think further. Every story hits some chord or the other in the heart. It might be something that you needed. Sometimes when we are very happy, we only see the joy in the story. But at other times, when we are not so happy, we don't see the joy. We see just the problems in the story. Similarly, we may say that slow and steady wins the race. But the child might have seen something else in the story. Why should we restrict ourselves? Why should we restrict the minds of the child? They are all budding geniuses. We don't have to restrict them. Let them think what they want. So this is how I wanted to tell you about the visual. The auditory learners are the one who take from the sound. For example, when I put in some words, I put some emotion. I put some expression into it. That's what touches the hearts of these learners. And when it comes to the ones who are the kinesthetic ones, they understand the feelings. When I was scared in the story, the listener was also scared. He could feel that feeling. So that's how a story connects with all type of learners, be it any. And now let's do a little exercise in which all the three types of learners can be pleased. And I want you all to do actions with me. It's for little ones, but it's really, I'm telling you, it relieves us of our own tensions. When you're into a story, you think nothing but the story. So we'll do the story of two goats. All right, we're ready? Yes. So once upon a time, there were two goats. We can do the actions with me. There are two goats. And they lived on a hill. This is a hill. They lived on the hill. One day, the goat thought of going to the other side and eat the grass. So she came down and she walked, and there was a river. She crossed the bridge and she ate the grass. She was happy. She turned back and she went to her hill. She climbed her hill and there she sat. The next day, the second goat came down. She walked through the bridge, crossed it, went and ate a lot of grass. And she returned too, back to her hill. One day, both of them decided to come down. So here comes both the goats are coming down, 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 and merrily started walking towards the bridge. Oh, now they were face to face. And no one was ready to move. You move. You move. No, you go. I came in first. I want to go that side. And they both fell into the water. They came out and went back to their hills. And the next day, both thought, I want to eat the grass the other side. She also thought, I want to go to the other side. But then, let's do something. They both came down. Came to the bridge, looked at each other and gave a smile. She said, how do we go? This is a bit too narrow. Yeah, let me try and squeeze myself. Oh yes, I'll also try and squeeze. Both of them squeezed and there, both of them went on to the other side. They ate all the grass. Their stomach is full. Happily, they turned back. They thanked each other and now they were friends. They said, whenever you want to come, we'll make way for each other. And happily they went back to their mountains, their hillocks. So isn't that simple? One little movement. You can hear, you can see, and you can feel. And the children are ready for their next class. Yes, Jyoti? Over to Jyoti. Yeah. Jyoti, are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't unmute myself, so that was the thing.
Okay.
So as Poonam said, this story of the goats, two goats, can be beautifully used in conflict resolution in a class. You always feel children are, fighting in the class and they have a lot of issues. And this is a beautiful story. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to intervene or take them to the principal or the PT teacher for disciplining. You can just tell a simple story in the classroom and let the children reflect on it. And believe me, it will work wonders. And why will it work wonders? Because when the story is being told, it is not giving yarn to them. So the doors, the barriers of the heart are open and it straight goes down to the subconscious. And when we talk of stories, it is not only that we are talking from the storytellers way only. There are a lot of physiological changes that takes place. There are a lot of changes in the brain structure when a story is being told. Many of the teachers must be aware of the concept of the left brain and the right brain. In the classrooms, when you are giving the children the data, the statistics, what should I say? This is all a very cognitive process. There is no emotion involved in it. And only the left brain is involved. And anything which is done with the left, in which only the left brain is involved, doesn't stay for a very long time. For a concept to be imbibed by the children, both the left and the right brain to be utilized. And stories precisely do the same. When Poonam talked about the two goats, two goats, the mountain, the bridge, your left brain was activated because it was all very, concrete things, right? When she talked about the feelings, it was the left brain which came into the picture. And so I'm very sure none of you will ever forget this story because both the left and the right brain were beautifully incorporated in the story. So for the knowledge, for any concept when you are teaching or telling somebody, we need to keep this in mind, the left and the right brain. Also, there have been researches that PPT or chalk and board method, which normally is being used, only the language processing part of the brain is activated. Only one part of the brain. And when you bring a story into any concept, your language processing, your auditory, your olfactory, your sensory, your motor, when the goats were walking, it was the motor related part of the brain which was active. So it is a kind of as if एक high voltage light आ गई है bulb में. When you use the stories, the brain lights up like that. And I am not saying that there have been numerous studies related to this. Why do you think the advertisement people, and it is all because the stories have an right brain and all the areas of our brain, language processing, memory, auditory. And just close your eyes, and tell me what happened, And as she put the brown, soft and fluffy gulab jamuns soaked in the sugar syrup in her mouth, she could smell the gulab jal in the sugar syrup and the sweetness of the gulab jamuns. Please open your eyes. How many of you could literally taste the gulab jamuns? So the thing is, the picture, the visual should be so clear. The visual should be so clear in the story that you are almost there. And visualization is the crux of storytelling. The more relaxed you make the listener, the more vivid the imagination, the deeper will be the impact. Also, when we come to chemicals, many of you must be chemistry teachers here. I'm not very clued up it is, but whatever I have learned, dopamine, I'm sure I know. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical. So the moment you listen to the stories, the dopamine is released, which makes you feel so good. So that is the beauty and the science behind storytelling. Storytelling is a very, very scientific process. There are loads of skills involved in storytelling, which Poonam would be sharing with you. And, and another thing I would like to share our story, Poonam and myself, when we started Katha Vriksh, both of us thought, oh, we are big storytellers. Storytelling क्या है? हम ऐसी storytelling कर लेंगे. हमें क्या जाने की जरूरत है? But the more we learn, the more we are hesitant of sharing the stories. We realize it's a skill. We have attended so many workshops. We have learned from so many people. And still we are in the process of learning.
Still learning.
And stories are also very healing. So if you take up a story and use certain words, it can be very, very healing for children. So in the classroom, if you have a group of children who are hyperactive or who are anxious, maybe you can build a story around calm. I would like to share a very, very small story which is very close to my heart. I never almost miss an opportunity to say that. Once a man in a village lost his beautiful golden watch. The watch was very precious to him. So he told all the people in the village, whoever finds the watch will get a handsome reward. Everybody looked for the watch because they really wanted the reward. And also because the watch was very important to that person. People looked for the watch, but none could find it. They looked here, they looked in the fields, they looked in the house, they looked in the cupboard, under the bed, over the bed, on the sofa, on the table, everywhere. But they just could not find the watch. One child came and told the man, "You can give me a chance." The man was very skeptical. What will this small child be able to do? He said, okay, fine. He went there. The child went and told everybody to be very, very quiet. He quietly looked for the watch all around. And sure enough, after 3 minutes of silence, he could hear the tick, 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 tick of the watch under the hay. So, what I'm trying to say is silence is beautiful. So stories also help you to hear the inner silence, and they can be very healing. Now, this story, whenever I want people to take a pause to help them feel the inner silence, then this is the story I share with them. So we have spoken about the brain parts, we have spoken about the chemicals, we have spoken about the pause. Another small thing I would like to tell here is we as teachers need to curate the stories. Just imagine whenever we look at the story of the fox and the grapes, every time I hear it, so the fox did not get the grapes, and she said the grapes are sour. In the present times, please change the ending of the story. My ending of the story is Grape saw that she could not reach. So joined a gym, or she joined a physical fitness center, and she learned to hop, and finally she could get the grapes. So it is no longer the story of the grapes are sour. It is the story of the grapes which the fox could get. So as teachers, it is our moral responsibility not to be stuck up in that area of those age-old stories. Please curate your stories. You have the creative liberty of building up this kind of space. So I think I'm overshooting the time. So next, let's hear what Poonam has to say about this.
Yeah. So the thought about curating a story is very, very important, because whenever you decide on a story to tell, you should feel it first. It should resonate with you. You should believe in it. If you are truthful with your own self, so can you transfer the truth to the children or whomsoever you are telling the story. Like Jyoti said, we are still learning. Every day is a new learning. But there are few points that I want to leave with you before we go, is how to become a good storyteller. What are the skills of becoming a good storyteller? And the first skill is the one which Jyoti has just spoken about, and that is to listen. Yes, listen. To tell, first you have to listen. Only when you listen do you understand. And only when you understand can you tell something from your heart, from the depths of your heart. And anything told from the heart reaches the heart. Storytelling is not just a mind-to-mind connect. It's a heart-to-heart connect too. The eyes meet, the mind connects, and the heart connects. The heart has to be open. So first, you should be able to listen to the listener. You should be able to understand what does the person want. As students, there are many problems in their life today with this pandemic and all. I know all the children are going through a lot. So as a teacher, give them stories, give them new horizons. So to listen is the first quality of a storyteller. The second is his voice, the projection of his voice, how he trains it, how he modulates it. Then comes the gestures, how to use the space, the expression. The space could be a hall, it could be anything. The space could even be the screen that I am right now in. I can use it, I can come close, I can go far, I can use my hand, I can use my facial expressions. So the space using is also very important. You have to have a good vocabulary, a good language, command over whichever language you are using. It could be Hindi, English, your mother tongue, or even a mixture of two languages. That's perfectly fine. Then you should have a very compassionate look. Your outlook should be such that you can understand compassion, you can understand, you can feel. So you have to be very emotional. You should feel everything and be a good listener, and also have a very positive attitude. Positive attitude, everything needs a positive outlook, be it teaching, be it learning, be it any field that you are in. A story, transforms not only the listeners, it also transforms the teller. We, by telling stories to everybody, wherever we go, we tell stories. Every time we tell a story, we see something new. A new light comes upon us. And then we share it in another way. We have changed the ends of so many stories because after telling them for 2, 3, 4 times, they did not resonate, at least the end part of it. So we thought, how do we make it positive? We cannot feed stories which do not align the head, the heart, and the mind. We have to align everything. When everything is aligned, the truth is beautiful. So we need to change, and we do change a lot of stories. And with folk tales, you can always have your own versions. There are many storytellers who tell the same stories in many different ways. So adapt and do it the way you find it good, right? So with this, I think most of the skills I have discussed. And Jyoti, is something that you want to talk about, or because I think the time is almost
have the time
over.
Let's ask the moderator. We can talk hours and hours upon storytelling.
Yes,
I know, I understood both of you can talk hours and hours. Now we have time restriction. So
Yes.
before,
Yeah.
in 4 minutes, we will end up this meeting, this talk.
Okay. So Jyoti, can I go ahead with the story? One final story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
So
Okay.
yes, Jyoti.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So before we leave, One story. Once upon a time, there were two seeds lying under the ground, very comfortable. What they needed to eat, to sustain, they got from the earth beneath. The air came from the skies above. They were very happy in their space. They never wanted to move out. And life was moving on. Till one day, one of the seed said to the other, "Hey, I want to go out. I want to go up in this, out of this land, out of this soil. I want to move upwards towards the sky. I want to see the world outside. I want to see what is there. I want to feel it. I want to feel the sun. I want to see the birds. I want to feel everything that is there. And I want to grow my roots down in the earth. I want to feel the earth." The other seed was very reluctant. The other seed said, "No, but I'm happy here. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't know what lies outside. I mean, it's a challenge. I don't know. There might be bad people. The air may not be that good. We are so comfortable here. Why should I move out from this place? I don't want to go. I don't want to take my deep roots inside. There could be worms. There could be anything under the soil. I am comfortable. I need not go anywhere." But the first seed had decided in its mind, it needs to grow. And then the roots started growing and a little shoot came out and it started growing. Slowly it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew into a beautiful tree, a gulmohar tree. It blossomed every season in the summers. There were lots of beautiful flowers. And the children came down. They would play there, sit there for hours. Old people came and sat there. They would tell each other their stories. The mothers who were with their children, they would sit and chat. People going through the road would always look at it and say, "Oh, what a lovely tree it is." And it was happy. In the meantime, the lonely seed, the second seed, also thought that I can see the roots down and the tree appears to be big now. I too need to go out in the world. And slowly it too sprouted and a little shoot started moving upwards towards the sky. And we leave you with this reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have time constraint. Otherwise, we would have go on and on. So, very firstly, I would like to thank Remia Shibu, madam, who is the moderators of today's Sage Talk. I'm thankful to her to invite such beautiful storytellers. Thank you, Remia, ma'am. Now, I would thank both the speakers. Ma'am, both of you are amazing, awesome. We would love to listen to you for hours and hours. You made us feel, you made us understand, made us know so many things. You make us aware of, tips of, how to tell stories in a good way. So many things we have learned today, and we think we should not stop. We should go on and on. So we will continue some other time. Definitely we will invite you again some other time. Both of you are amazing, ma'am. Thank you from the on the behalf of Sage Group. Now I would request, I would like to present you digital certificate for both of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a wonderful day for us. We really enjoyed being here with all of you. Oh, wow.
Thank you. So if anyone has questions, I think the session is incomplete if we don't get to hear from audience. So we still have 2 minutes to
Yes.
showing. Questions are welcome.
Anyone has any question?